How will coronary angiogram cure her? You're telling me a classical class 1 indication for coronary angio.
The patient is hemodynamically compromised, then we have to put for IABP or
No. Okay, we'll come to IABP now. I asked about coronary angiogram. Do you think she has multivessel disease or single vessel, which is more likely?
mostly the patient is diabetic, the chances of multivessel disease will be high, sir.
Okay. I agree with their age and diabetes and hypertension, multivessel disease is what you expect. But my question, see, you must also guess what the examiner has in mind. Okay. You should not answer just like that without understanding why the examiner is asking. Sometimes the examiner has something in mind and he wants a particular answer. And you should be smart enough to guess what he wants. I specifically asked you, I also know she's elderly, I also know she's diabetic, and still I asked you, is it single vessel disease or multivessel disease? And you promptly gave me the answer which I don't want. What I should say, it could be anything, but ventricular septal rupture is more common with single vessel disease, first time occlusion. Because if the patient has multi-vessel disease, chronic occlusions, she would have formed collaterals. The very fact that she has ruptured her septum probably means she doesn't have collaterals. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So now you understand why I asked you that question?
Yes, sir.
So what you should say is, sir,
But,
because
the
of her
patient
age
is
and
diabetic
diabetes.
and advanced.
Yeah, I know. You answer both. You tell, sir, because of age and diabetes, one would normally expect multivessel disease. However,
Yes, sir.
because she has ruptured her septum, it's also possible that she has no collaterals and therefore it may be a single vessel disease. You should be smart enough to
Yes, sir.
guess what the examiner wants and answer, give both the answers. Do you understand or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you should guess what I want. Okay. So because she has ruptured, maybe it's only single vessel disease. Yeah, now coming back to why do you want to do coronary angio? That's the most important thing. She is in hypotension, she is in inotropic support, and you see, coronary angiogram is going to help me solve her problem. Okay, Nijaz, what did you say?
The patient is hemodynamically stable. BP is maintaining with the dual inotrope, so I will be proceeded for angio, sir.
Wait a minute. A patient who is on inotrope with dopamine and noradrenaline is not considered stable. Don't even talk about stability here. So it is a two strong vasoconstrictors going. A patient is stable. That's not a stable position. The BP is maintained 90 with two vasoconstrictors. That means the patient is unstable, irrespective of the BP. Got my point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now tell me, she's an unstable patient only. So now what do you want to do? Why do you want to do coronary angio?
Let identify how the coronaries are, then we have to proceed for the treatment, sir. Whether it's going for patch closure or surgery.
So which is the primary thing? No, you're not identifying the primary thing. What is the primary problem which is going to kill her?
Because of shocks, sir.
Yeah,
It will lead to multivessel dysfunction.
What is the shock due to?
Because of the septal rupture, sir. So we have to.
So what is the primary problem which is killing her? Ventricular septal rupture.
Sir.
Okay. So even if she goes for surgery, they may not graft all the arteries. They may even not waste time in doing all the grafts. It is the ventricular septal rupture which requires most important attention. So your whole attention should be on the ventricular septal rupture. Right?
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
So you must get all details about the ventricular septal rupture.
Yes, sir.
How big it is, exactly location. So if necessary, if along size. So if necessary, you may have to do additional imaging to know the exact dimensions. And what imaging can you do? What imaging can you do to assess the VSD?
In addition to echo, sir?
Yeah, in addition to echo.
LV angiogram.
Oh my God. So you will take her to the cath lab and do an LV angio. That's a, don't you want to do something in the bedside? A simple transesophageal echo?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you say that? Transesophageal echo will give you the best way of assessing the VSD without shifting the patient at the bedside. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Why you want the measurement? Because you're going to make your decision whether you're going to close this VSD by
Device or surgery, sir?
device or surgery. Okay. In either case, you're going to take some time. You have to take her to the cath lab, you have to take her to the theater, arrange blood, get consent, get money, and all that. But do you want to do anything in between before that? To help the ventricle. You said it, no? You said it before and now you're not talking.
Yes, sir. I will put in IABP, sir.
Why don't you say that? You have to unload the ventricle. You have to help the ventricle so that it can function and it can improve the forward cardiac output. You have to reduce the forward load, afterload on the left ventricle. Now, if the BP was above 90 without without vasoconstrictor, I would have probably said we'll start a vasodilator. But now the BP is below 90 requiring vasoconstrictor. There's no chance of starting vasodilators. And therefore, the only way to do is the assist device. Assist device in what is easily available at the bedside is IABP. So the first thing is to insert IABP even before you do coronary angio. Okay. Now, once you do coronary angio, to take the patient to the cath lab, you must have a clear plan in mind, because if you're going to do VSD closure, you have to do it at the same time. You cannot take her once to cath lab and do coronary angio, then bring her back to CCU, and then next again order the device, and then take her back to cath lab and then put the device. Are you going to do that like 2 times?
No, sir.
Then how can you say I will do coronary angio, I will do coronary angio? You have to decide whether you're going to do device closure or you're going to do surgical closure.
Yes, sir. After assessing the size.
Okay. Suppose you're going to do device closure, you have to order the device.
You have to measure the size.
Get all the equipment necessary for device closure and get the cath lab ready. If you are going to do surgery, what do you want to do? You have to inform the surgeon. You never told me that. Don't you want to inform the surgeon?
As for the CTS.
Yes, you have to inform the cardiac surgeon, inform the cardiac theatre, arrange for blood. Oh man, if you are a clinician, you should think of all this and answer these questions.
Okay.
So in either case, you have to inform the surgeon, you have to inform the OR, you have to inform the cath lab, you have to arrange for the device. Once these things, and of course, you have to take consent and family, money, and all those issues. Once you have done all this and the IABP is functioning, then only you shift it to the cath lab.
Okay, sir.
Right? Now, suppose you have decided that you want to do device closure, of course, it's a different issue. If you want to do surgical closure, what will you do in the cath lab?
Yeah, assess the coronary anatomy.
Yes. So, how will you do coronary anatomy? How will you assess?
whether it's a single vessel or multi-vessel, sir.
Yeah, so you have to answer specifically. If I'm asking you how will you make, you must answer specifically. Sir, I will do just a few
The patient is
very limited shots, very few injections, just to identify which branches are involved. One or two shots in the RCA, one or two shots in the LCA. That's all. Minimum shot, minimum contrast load.
Yes, sir. As the patient is already in shock, there
Yes.
will be in renal compromise will
Yes.
be there.
So you should tell all that. No? When I'm asking you, how will you admit? It's a very minimum, just enough to know the status of the vessel. Okay. And
Okay, sir.
if you're planning to do a VSD closure by device, it's important to do a LV angio. Otherwise, you don't need LV angio at all.
Yes.
Right. Okay, Gautam, I mean, that's all I have to ask you. Gautam, you want to tell about the, whatever you have information?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, talk. Your slide.
I just want to tell about the classification and little management of the VSR, sir.
Okay.
As Nijas told, there is a bimodal presentation, and there are three types of VSR: type 1, type 2, and type 3. Type 1 rupture is just a bit slipped like myocardial tear and corresponds within 24 hours. And type 2 is an area of myocardial erosion and evident interdicular slow progressive tear, increasing tear day by day. And type 3 rupture has a marked thinning of the myocardium and perforation in the central portion of the aneurysm, which typically occurs during the late phase of the MI.
Which is our patient?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Which type is our patient?
Our patient is the type 3, sir.
Yes. So clearly we saw an aneurysmal bulge of the septum, and we saw thinning, and there was a perforation in the central portion of the aneurysm, and it typically occurred 3 days after myocardial infarction. So everything points to type 3 rupture.
Yes.
Okay, next.
Next. And this is the management protocol, sir. And we, if VSR patient is hemodynamically stable, either we have to plan for a surgical correction or for a device closure. If patient is hemodynamically stable, early surgical repair. And if it's not hemodynamically stable, we have to maintain the mechanical support and take for the repair, sir. And if patient is in cardiogenic shock, we have to support mechanically. And if feasible, do immediate trans-catheter procedure. Otherwise, wait and do for surgical repairs. Patients in cardiogenic shock.
What is the prognosis without intervention, without any either repair or intervention? What is the prognosis?
More than 80% mortality, sir.
80% mortality in what period?
Without intervention.
What period? I think more than 20% mortality is, well, that's not correct. Actually, the initial mortality is about 60 to 75%, but overall, within a year, at least 95% of them are dead. Then, but even if you do intervention, then the mortality is quite high.
More than 50%.
In fact, early intervention, either device or surgery, carries a high mortality of almost 30 to 50%, even if you do it within the first 48 hours. The best prognosis comes when the procedure itself can be delayed for more than 4 to 5 days, because the patient is in a better shape, and also the edges of the myocardial infarction rupture becomes a little firm, and the device can be held in position, or surgery can be, the patch can be sewn well. But whether the patient can wait or not is not in your hand, because it depends on the patient. Now, maybe the patients whom we are doing after 6 to 7 days have better prognosis because they are the naturally selected better survivors. Therefore, the late repair only means that the nature has already selected the more stronger survivor one, and that you are doing intervention, and therefore the results are good. Therefore, if the patient is stable, without too heavy an inotrope, without major tissue hypoperfusion, and if possible to wait, it's always better to delay the procedure. But in majority of cases, you are not able to delay the procedure, and you have to undertake either device or surgical repair. And what you do with the surgery or device depends actually upon your hospital. Whether you have a good surgeon who is confident and you're doing surgery, or whether you have an active cath lab and you're geared to do it, because both are very challenging procedures and both have a very high mortality associated. Okay? I think that's enough for this case. So please read the rupture of ventricular septum. It's important question for theory also, as well as in any one of these portals. We got the next case.
She's a 24-year-old female diagnosed to have some heart disease in childhood and treated in a local government hospital. She gave a history of recurrent respiratory tract infection requiring ward admission at least more than 3 times in a year. She denies any ICU admission or oxygen therapy. She was advised early surgery in her childhood days, but she refused surgery, and she was on regular medication with diuretics. And she denies a history of rheumatic fever of penicillin prophylaxis. Now came with a complaint of breathing difficulty, dyspnea on exertion, class 3, since 6 months. She gave history of PND and orthopnea since 1 week.
Yeah, go on.
Yes. History of episodic palpitation since 1 week, mostly occurring during the sleep and subside by itself after some time. On examination, pulse is normal, no specific character. She had long and sustained parasternal lift and palpable P2. S1 is normal, wide and fixed S2. She had a grade 2 crescendo decrescendo ejection systolic murmur ends before S2 in pulmonary area, and a grade 3 long pansystolic murmur in tricuspid area.
Right. Okay, who is going to talk for this case? Come, put on your mics, one of you. Who's answering? Come on, quick, no, don't waste time, please. I can't waste so much time. I think you guys should come forward. Huh? There are only 10 guys, what is the problem?
Sir, Surya, sir, I will answer. Sir.
Okay. So, do you want to comment on the clinical history so far? Anything?
Yes, sir. She's a young lady, 24 years, without any history of with the background of breathlessness on exertion and recent worsening with orthopnea, and the examination showing normal pulse with palpable P2 and wide and split S2 with.
No, don't read out the whole thing. No? Just tell me your conclusion.
Possible ASD. I'm suspecting ASD with ASD, sir, in this case.
Yeah, well, the moment you say wide and fixed second sound, it's a young lady with dyspnea, possibly atrial septal defect.
Atrial septal defect with since she's having palpable P2, evidence of pulmonary hypertension also.
Okay, so that's all I wanted. Possible is the atrial septal defect with pulmonary hypertension. And of course, the other possibility is always that pulmonary hypertension alone and wide and fixed split due to what is the other cause of wide and fixed split second sound? What are the other cause of wide split second sound? Huh?
Harvey failure.
Is she in Harvey failure? I don't think he mentioned Harvey failure anywhere. He has not mentioned JVP and all that. Right bundle branch block. Wide second sound, second right bundle branch block. Pulmonary hypertension with RBB. That's the other possibility. Okay. Yeah. Harvey failure can cause wide split second sound, but then he hasn't told heart failure anywhere. Okay. Okay. So let me play this video for you. Yeah, Surya, get ready for interpreting. Huh? Keep talking.
Yes, sir. So, parasternal long axis view, which is showing mitral normal mitral valve anatomy, sir. Opening and closing are fine. There is no restriction. Sorry, sir. I'm not able to.
Now you're able to see?
Yes, sir. I could see, sir, but it's little slow, sir. Some
It's getting stuck, sir.
Is it better
Right.
now? I'll freeze it now. Okay. Can you see now?
yes, sir.
How
Yes, sir. The LA it is a parasternal long axis view, which is showing a normal LA and LV size, sir. And the mitral valve anatomy also appears normal, sir. Um,
So LALB mitral valve.
the RV appears to be enlarged, sir. This view, but I would like to confirm in other views. Aortic valve, can you please, sir?
So can you see? The aortic valve is normal. Okay.
Yes, sir.
RV?
RV appears dilated, sir.
Then keep watching as more coming now. Okay, comment now.
So it's a short axis view of it's an aortic short axis view, sir, initially.
No. I'm showing you LV short axis. No? What is the LV?
Yes, sir. It's LV short axis view, sir. The LV function appears to be normal. There is no any regional wall motion abnormality. The RV is grossly dilated, sir.
Okay. Anything else?
And there is a D-shaped septum, sir.
Okay. Right. Anything else?
It's a very trivial pericardial effusion. No evidence of any ventricular septal defect.
Very. Did you say trivial or severe?
Trivial, sir.
Okay.
This is pulmonary arteries, sir, which appears to be dilated, sir. Main pulmonary arteries.
Don't use the word appears. No? This is so dilated, 3 times the size of the aorta. So pulmonary artery is dilated. Talk confidently.
Pulmonary artery is dilated, sir. Pulmonary artery Doppler.
No, that's not a good tracing. Forget it. I'll go forward. Try that. Okay. Can you see that?
It's an aortic short axis view. Here we could see atrial septal defect noted, sir. And which appears to be large, sir. It's ostium secundum AST.
Okay.
Then
On.
stuck, sir. The next important thing to be noted in a case of AST is the rim, sir.
No. Report this echo. Don't tell me theory. Report this echo. Whatever you're seeing in this image, there's nothing else. I'll go forward. That's all.
The superior rim appears is very thin, not there, sir.
Oh yeah, why are you taking so much time? The superior rim is completely missing. Okay.
Completely. And the aortic rim also appears thin and flimsy, sir.
Okay. They are measuring the AST now, almost 30 millimeters. Okay.
30 millimeters, large ostium secundum AST, sir. The RARV is grossly dilated, sir. Color crossing noted across the atrial septal defect. So moderate amount of TR, sir. I'd like to see it in 4-chamber view. apical four-chamber view, which is showing grossly dilated RA and RB with a large ostium secundum AST. The LV function appears normal. So LA also the size is normal. LA and LV sizes are normal.
Anything else you want to tell me in this view? You want to comment on the rims in all the views?
Rims, yes, sir. Mitral rim, sir. It is short, sir, and appears thin.
But more important, superior rim is very deficient. Also, you can see the pulmonary veins joining the LA.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm not happy about your description of short axis. Can you try again? What do you see here? Anybody else? It's a very important view for me, and you're not describing it properly.
The LV short axis shows the ventricular septum is squashed in both the systole and diastole, indicating RV pressure overload.
Very good. Who was that?
Others.
Yeah. So Surya, don't you have to say that the LV is D-shaped in both systole and diastole? If the LV is D-shaped only in diastole, but circular in systole, means that it is only volume loaded, but the pressure is not high. But if it is D-shaped in both systole and diastole, it indicates that RV is enlarged due to RV hypertension. So this sign indicates in this patient, what does it mean?
It's evidence of severe pulmonary hypertension is certain.
Yes. Now, when it is severe and then you withdrew the word severe. Is it severe or not severe?
It's severe, sir, severe.
Yeah, the septum is bulging into the LV. So the RV pressure must be close to the LV pressure. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So now what is the diagnosis?
The case of a large ostium secundum AST measured almost 30 millimeters of mercury with deficient rims, sir, especially the superior rim and the mitral rims are deficient with the severe pulmonary hypertension with dilated RA and RB.
Okay, I want to know the. I know I didn't show you.
Pulmonary valve.
I know I didn't show you the full tracing, but tell me how do you? I want an estimate of the PA pressure. How will I get it?
It's a Doppler across the pulmonary valve, sir, and the envelope. The first.
No. Tell me exactly. Doppler across the pulmonary valve and look for what?
We can measure the mean pulmonary artery pressure and diastolic pulmonary artery pressure in the Doppler, sir, across the pulmonary artery.
You tell me how. I don't understand.
The beginning portion of the envelope is the mean pulmonary artery, so the peak one.
Envelope of what? I don't understand. What do you mean by envelope? Envelope of what? What? Envelope of
pulmonary regurgitation.
So you never told me that, no?
Pulmonary, yes, sir.
You have to record the pulmonary incompetence in what? Pulse Doppler, color Doppler, or CWD? How will you record?
First, we have to put the color Doppler and confirm the pulmonary regurgitation and put a continuous wave Doppler.
Okay. So now you've got a pulmonary incompetence signal. And then how do you measure? I want to know PA systolic pressure, PA diastolic, early diastolic, mean diastolic pressure, mean PA pressure, and also end PA diastolic pressure. How will I get all the three values? I want to get in this patient, I want to get PA systolic pressure. PA diastolic pressure and PA mean pressure. 3 values I want to know.
Yes. PA mean pressure and PA diastolic pressure are measured in Doppler across the pulmonary valve, sir.
Don't say Doppler across pulmonary valve. Don't say. Keep on telling it. You in the PR Doppler signal. Be very specific.
In the PR Doppler signal, in the envelope, the first
On.
Yes, sir.
The peak of the diastolic Doppler signal is
the peak of the diastolic Doppler is corresponds to the mean pulmonary artery, sir.
Okay.
And the end of the Doppler signal measures the diastolic pulmonary artery.
Okay. And I also want PA systolic pressure.
PA systolic pressure measured in 4-chamber view by putting a continuous wave Doppler across the tricuspid valve and measuring the systolic pressure, sir. The peak pressure of the tricuspid regurgitation.
That's better. So this is all I want. A very simple question I am asking, but you're not arriving at the answer straight away. So when I say how will you measure, I want to measure PA pressure in this patient. I will measure TR jet velocity. I will measure the PR in the early part and the late part. Just 3 short sentences, you could have finished this answer.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So we have a patient with ASD, pulmonary hypertension. And let's look at the echo report which Gautam has given. Okay, Gautam, tell us what's your findings.
Large ostium sagittum ASD, 32 millimeter bidirectional shunt, normal pulmonary venous drainage, normal myotic, aortic, and pulmonary valve, moderate TR, CRVSP of 85 plus RAP, severe pulmonary artery hypertension, grossly dilated right atrium, right ventricle, and pulmonary artery, normal right ventricular function, dilated inferior vena cava hepatic veins, no regional wall motion abnormality, normal LV function, and trace pericardial effusion.
Right. Okay, Surya.
Yes, sir.
This is the diagnosis at the end of echo. You know the clinical picture and you know the diagnosis now. Tell me what's your plan? Can you make a plan, or you want any more information? You want any more tests, or you're ready to make a plan now?
We have to. I would like to plan her for surgical closure of atrial septal defects, sir, after obtaining basic hemogram.
Okay, so you'll order a hemogram. Done.
Hemogram.
Then, what else do you want? After that, you can refer it to the cardiac surgeon.
Yes, sir.
Here, yes. What did you say? I didn't hear.
Should assess invasive PA pressure, sir, and the reversibility of the PA pressure has to be assessed.
Dr. Surya, you are the doctor, I am the patient. So if you say I want to assess the invasive PA pressure, I want to reverse that all, I don't understand. Talk to me in simple terms, what you want to do.
Advisor for CAT, sir, next.
First you said surgical repair, and then you said now CAT. Why did you change it?
Because the PA pressures are very much elevated. It's a near systemic pressure. It's around 90, sir. So I would like to look for reversibility of PA pressure, sir, before advising.
Is that a common finding in ASD? 90 RB pressure, is that a common finding in ASD? In other words, I'm asking you, how many people among ASD develop severe pulmonary arterial hypertension? What is the incidence of hypertension in the end of ASD?
She's only 25, sir. It's very early for her to develop this much of severe pulmonary hypertension.
Yeah, but what percentage of ASD patients develop pulmonary hypertension? Generally, roughly. Is it 10%, 15%, or is it 75%, 85%, or is it 95%, 100%, or 50, 60%?
15 to 20%.
So it is an uncommon complication of ASD, first of all. Secondly, however, the severity of PAH is very unusual and at relatively young age. So you need more information before you can advise surgery, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Does anybody have any better answer? He said cardiac cath. Anybody else has any better answer?
QP by QS to be calculated.
Hey, that is cardiac cath, no? How will you? You mean echo QP by QS?
Echo can do it, sir.
Any other information, please? Anybody can wants. I'll give you the initial information which we have given you here. Magnified. Any other information you want? This is the first history slide. You can have a look if you want to. If you want any more information, you have to ask Gautaman now. And this is the second slide. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you want any more information?
Saturation.
Hello?
Saturation.
Who said saturation? So, you guys are trying to operate upon a ASD without even knowing whether she's cyanosed or not. Did you ask whether she's cyanosed or clubbed? Come on, what are you doing? All of you are sleeping. Don't you know that any ASD patient with pulmonary hypertension, the first thing is to look for any cyanosis or clubbing, and what is the arterial saturation? Did you ask for saturation? Did you look for clubbing? Isn't that important?
Yes, sir.
Suppose clubbing is there, what does that indicate?
The long-standing hypoxia, sir.
What is it? What is your conclusion if he has clubbing?
The Eisenmengerization has happened, sir.
Yeah. So
she's not a candidate for surgery. First of all.
yeah. So she doesn't even need cardiac cath then. She's not for surgery. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
You may do for assessing pulmonary vascular disease and all that. But from surgical point of view or closure point of view, he doesn't need any more investigation. She's already cyanosed and clubbed. No, come on, that's a major mistake if you don't ask for saturation.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Suppose your saturation is 93%, 94%. I tell you saturation 94%. Now what? Now what will you advise us? Hello, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Suppose I'm saturation 94%. What will you advise?
This is for advice for cath only, sir.
Anybody else can answer that? All these I discussed in your previous lectures. I've discussed with the Frontier Lifeline meeting. I've discussed in the bigger group presentation also. Still you're not answering. Anybody else wants to answer?
Exercise induced saturation, sir.
Yeah. Don't you have to do resting saturation may be normal or borderline, You should do exercise saturation, make her walk up and down the corridor 10 times and record her saturation. Don't we do that in Frontier?
Yes, sir.
Then why don't you answer them? So things you can do clinically, you have to do. You have to do the resting saturation, you have to do exercise saturation. Suppose she had significant desaturation on mild walking, that indicates she's already irreversible pulmonary vascular disease. Why do I say that? What do I say? If walking produces desaturation, it means irreversible disease. Why do I say that? Anybody, please, anybody can answer. Nobody's answering? What does exercise do to the systemic and pulmonary vascular resistance?
It decrease, sir.
What does it mean? You have to tell clearly, Baba. What are you saying? I'm not able to understand. Don't tell me. Who wants to answer? When somebody exercises, what happens to systemic resistance?
Systemic resistance decreases, sir.
Decreases. What happens to pulmonary resistance when you exercise?
Increases, sir.
When you exercise, your pulmonary vascular resistance goes up.
Sorry, sir. It also decreases.
Then, okay. So in this case, when she exercises, what will happen to pulmonary vascular resistance?
As pulmonary vascular resistance is fixed, and as there is also diseased pulmonary vasculature, the pulmonary vascular resistance increases on exercise, sir.
It may not increase, but it doesn't decrease. So when a person normally exercises, the blood flow increases, the venous return increases, more blood goes into the lungs. To accommodate that, the pulmonary vessel dilate and the pulmonary vascular resistance goes down. But in this case, the pulmonary vessels cannot dilate. Therefore, the venous return will increase. It will come to the right atrium, but the systemic vascular resistance will decrease. Therefore, all the blood from the RA will go to LA and produce increased desaturation. Therefore, a fall in saturation on exercise is one of the important signs of a fixed PVR. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, you do resting saturation, you do exercise saturation, and then decide whether you need to do further investigation for operability or not. After that, you have to do cardiac cath. At cardiac cath, of course, you will measure PVR, you will measure whether it's reversible or not, and then you decide about operability. Please go and read up what are the levels of PVR which is acceptable for ASD closure. I'm not discussing that now, okay?
Okay, sir.
Now, how will you close this ASD?
She needs surgical closure only, sir. The rims are very flimsy and inadequate.
Okay. First of all, I doubt whether she is operable, but if she is fit for closure, device may not be a correct procedure. Surgical repair may be a better option. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Right. I'll skip that. Okay, come on, quick. Now, I thought I'll go to the last case now. Okay, can you see the slide now? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
go on. Yes, go on.
The MVP தான் உனக்கு.
Yeah, she's a 55-year-old female, known case of diabetes and hypothyroidism. Came with a complaint of atypical chest pain and no other specific complaint. Cardiac examination was normal and she came for routine health checkup. She was advised for routine health checkup and she came for the routine health checkup.
So she has no specific symptom, very non-specific symptom. Okay. So go to the echo straight away. Cardiac examination clinically was normal. Who's going to answer this question? Please get ready. It's a very easy diagnosis, but then you will be asked a lot of questions, so you have to answer properly. Are you able to see the video? I'm asking whether are you able to see the video. Who is going to answer this question?
Yes, sir.
Who is answering? Guys, I cannot waste time like this. One of you should decide beforehand, or one of you has to volunteer quickly. I'll play it. One of you get ready for answering. If you waste time, then we'll just close now. Can you see the image? Can you see the image or not?
Sir, we can see. Sir.
Can you see the color Doppler?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see short axis now?
Yes, sir. Intracardiac mass, which is attached to the interatrial septum, it's extending into the LA, sir.
Go on.
And it is popping into the mitral valve during every cycle, sir. There is regurgitation, mitral regurgitation, which is seen, sir. So can you just go back, sir? Fourth chamber.
Yeah. Playing again.
Yes, sir.
Diastole.
Yes. Diastole, there is turbulence noted across the mitral valve, sir. So, including the mitral valve opening, protruding into the mitral valve.
And that is systole.
This regurgitation, which is the jet is laterally directed jet, which is encircling the which is encircling the intracardiac mass in the LA, and it is reaching up to the roof, sir.
Okay, now start from the beginning. You give me a report on this.
So it's an intracardiac mass attached to the
No need to say intracardiac mass. Go straight where it is. Where is the mass?
in the LA, sir, intraatrial septum.
Why don't you say left atrial mass? Why don't you say this?
Left atrial mass with attached to the intraatrial septum. I would like to measure and tell the size, sir.
Okay.
Measures this
22 by 25.
22 by 25 millimeters. Possibly left atrial myxoma, sir.
So your description is over.
No, sir.
I wanted a description of the mass because that tells me whether you know everything about myxoma or not. The way you describe.
You have to tell about regularity and smoothness of the mass.
Ask me. You are the cardiologist. You have to give me a report. No, you don't want to. You only said LA mass attached to the septum. That's all. And then you said there is a turbulence in the mitral valve and systole and diastole. Only three, 22 by 25 millimeters. Only three these factors. You haven't told me anything else. If you read the book on LA myxoma, there are certain characteristic terms mentioned. Now, the way the examiner knows that you have read is by the way you give your report. If you give a proper report, I know that you have read about LA myxoma. Otherwise, I think you're guessing or you just heard something and you're talking. First of all, is it a single mass or multiple masses?
Single, sir. Single.
Is that important or not?
Yes, sir.
So there is a solitary mass in the left atrium. It's a irregular cauliflower-like mass. That's the word used in the book, cauliflower-like mass, attached by a short pedicle. There's no long pedicle. It's a very short. It doesn't have a long stalk or anything. It is attached by a very short pedicle to the fossa ovalis region of the center portion of the intraatrial septum. Is it homogeneous or non-homogeneous in consistency?
It's homogeneous.
What does it mean?
Non-calcified.
Non-calcified, non-necrotic. See, a myxoma is often homogeneous when it is uncomplicated. When it becomes complicated, when it bleeds into the myxoma, when it necroses, or when it turns malignant, it becomes non-homogeneous. So this is a homogeneous, well-defined cauliflower mass with a short stalk attached to the central portion of the intraatrial septum. It is moving up and down with cardiac cycle, going into the mitral valve, causing obstruction to the mitral inflow during diastole and also impaired closure during systole, causing some MR as well as diastolic turbulence. However, it has no attachment to the mitral valve. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, anything else you want to talk to me? What are the other effects of mitral valve obstruction?
Gradient across the mitral valve, sir.
Okay.
And
they have not shown us that. We can't talk, but something you can talk on this view, if you tell me.
Damage the mitral valve, sir.
The mitral valve movements and structure looks normal. Okay, what else? The LA is enlarged or not?
Yes, sir. LA is enlarged and septum is pushed towards.
Is the mitral myxoma can cause any pulmonary hypertension? Can cause or no?
pulmonary venous hypertension.
Yes. But what pulmonary venous hypertension? Can it cause pulmonary arterial hypertension?
It's pulmonary venous hypertension. Isn't it?
Can it cause pulmonary arterial hypertension? I asked. Why not? Vital stenosis doesn't cause pulmonary arterial hypertension. Why are you hesitating so much in answering? So any cause of mitral valve obstruction can cause pulmonary venous and pulmonary arterial hypertension. Is there any evidence of pulmonary hypertension in this case? Is the RV dilated? Is the RA dilated? That's all I'm asking.
No, sir.
What is the problem? I want you to just describe an echo fully. Whenever you see an echo, describe in complete terms all the structures that you are seeing. This is a case of single mass attached to the atrial septum with evidence of LA enlargement, mitral obstruction, and mitral leak. However, there is no sign of RV enlargement, RA enlargement to suggest severe pulmonary arterial hypertension. That's all I want. Yes or no?
Yes.
The other thing which we have to analyze is the possibility of embolism also. Can you comment on that? Then, of course, any myxoma can embolize, but the possibility of embolism in this case, high, low, moderate.
It's a well-defined homogeneous mass, sir. So the possibility is less.
Okay. One is well-defined. But what are the other things important? See, when you have a small, very mobile mass with a long pedicle, there are much more chances of embolism. But when you have a very big mass, this mass may not go through the mitral valve at all. May not go through the LVOT. Therefore, when you have a too big a mass, you may not get embolism unless the mass itself breaks up into pieces. Now, mass breaking up into pieces will happen only if there is necrosis. Is there any evidence of necrosis?
No, sir. It's homogeneous, sir.
Therefore, such a big mass which is unable to go through the mitral valve may not show embolic episode. That is only a guesswork. It is not 100% certain. Therefore, you must say this. It appears to be the risk of embolism may not be high because it's a very large mass and seems to be homogeneous. So those are the complete description features I wanted. Right. So what is the diagnosis now? Your first diagnosis, what is your differential diagnosis? Hello?
LA thrombus, sir. Other differential diagnosis.
Okay. First diagnosis, you didn't tell me. When only you go to first diagnosis, LA myxoma. Second
First
diagnosis, LA thrombus.
LA thrombus.
Okay. Why did you say myxoma and not thrombus? Why not? Why I say no, it is thrombus. What is against thrombus?
The place of attachment is the center of the intraatrial septum, sir, which is not a common location for the thrombus, LA thrombus. And there is no.
Don't say not a common location. Tell me where a thrombus occurs.
LA appendage, sir, usually.
Okay. So the most common location for thrombus in the LA is the appendage. The body of the LA is the less likely location. Okay. What else?
It is more homogeneous, sir. Usually, thrombus will be heterogeneous.
Okay. What else?
Freely mobile, sir, and irregular.
So what? thrombus cannot be mobile? You're right. Thrombus always forms along the wall. It doesn't form in the middle of the cavity, no? A thrombus always forms along a wall. It should not be that mobile.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen? So this is unlikely to be a thrombus because it is one, it is homogeneous. 2, it is attached to the septum and not from the LA appendae. 3, it seems to be mobile, whereas a thrombus is unlikely to be so mobile. But the most important reason you haven't told me.
There is no any structural difference, sir.
So there should be a cause for LA thrombus unless the patient has a coagulation problem, which prothrombotic condition, which we don't know. Unless they have a prothrombotic condition, a thrombus in the LA generally occurs when there is an underlying heart disease, mitral stenosis, or cardiomyopathy, or atrial fibrillation. Something should be there. Okay, without underlying heart disease, and you should suspect either non-thrombotic mass, or you should suspect that this thing. That it's maybe you have to rule out a thrombotic condition. So that is why we feel it is a thrombus. Okay, so now, we feel it's a LA myxoma. So now let's see what Gautaman tells us. What is the diagnosis? Okay, Gautaman.
Yes, sir.
Tell us what you have.
A large left atrial myxoma, measuring 3.3 to 2.8 centimeters, attached to IAS, mild left ventricular inflow obstruction, trivial mitral regurgitation, normal valves, no pulmonary artery hypertension, no regional wall motion abnormality, normal LV and RV function.
Okay. So he has given you this diagnosis. Now what do you want to do, Surya? How old was this patient? 45 or 45?
55, sir.
Okay. What do you want to do now?
So a very large mass which is occluding the left atrial, left ventricular inflow, sir. As well as it is causing mitral regurgitation. So I would advise, sir, for surgical excision of the mass, sir. It's a definitive treatment for LA myxoma. And
when will you operate upon him? Corona is going on, pandemic is going on now. Come on, be quick, man. It's already 1:30. I have to wind up now. All I'm asking is operation early or late? Yeah, that's all I'm asking. What is the problem?
Earlier, sir.
Why?
Earlier, sir, because it's causing inflow obstruction, sir.
Okay. So, although we have diagnosed in an asymptomatic patient, you never know when it is going to block the mitral valve. If it blocks the mitral valve, she can have a syncopal episode or she can have sudden death. Therefore, once you diagnose LA myxoma, it is a relative emergency. You should operate as early as possible.
Yes, sir.
So Surya says his plan is echo is enough. I'm going to send her for surgery as early as possible. So surgeon is willing to operate tomorrow morning. Can we go ahead, Surya?
No, sir, since he is 55 years old, I would like to see her coronary status also.
You never told me that. How only you are telling me?
Hmm?
No. Somebody is cross-talk. Somebody is talking to the mic. Okay, so you want to do coronary angio now. Something
Yes,
else
sir.
you want to do? Anybody else can answer? Something else? I want a better answer than that. Do you do anything else before sending?
Cardiac CT, sir.
Cardiac?
Cardiac CT, sir. Cardiac CT, sir.
Why CT?
We can define the it's a different set of attachments so that we can plan for, because we have to remove the mass with along with the pericardial intra-atrial septal part of intra-atrial septum, sir. So we
How
can
will-
define the
how-
part of the where we can.
How will CT angio help in that? Anyway, they are going to open the heart. They will remove the septum. What is the problem? How will CT angio help? No, I don't agree with that.
Okay, sir.
Look, I think you people are not, you're not carrying what we discussed. In a case of myxoma, there's something else you have to exclude. No?
It is single or multiple, syndromic or non-syndromic.
Don't you? Didn't we discuss this only a couple of weeks ago in a case discussion?
Yes, sir.
There's nothing given here about the history only says she came for routine cardiac checkup. But unless you go back and specifically ask questions, specifically examine her, how will you know it is syndromic or not? What syndrome are we talking about?
Carney's complex, sir.
What is
Lamb's
Carney's complex? Why don't you tell me what it is? You're not answering them. Don't you go back to the patient to examine her to ask her history again? What are the things you will ask the history? What are the things you will examine her for?
The familiar history of any intracardiac mass, sir.
Okay. What
Any
sort of family history do you expect?
family history. And
What type of family history do you expect? Carney syndrome, what is the inheritance pattern? I'm asking.
autosomal dominant, sir.
Autosomal dominant. That means there will be at least one more member in the family who has history of cardiac tumor. If it is syndromic variety. Otherwise, it is a sporadic variety. Okay, so history of cardiac tumor in the family. What else?
Look for any skin pigmentation, sir.
Okay, skin pigmentation. You will examine her for skin pigmentation. What else? Come on, guys. I asked you to read after Amudan presented that case of LA myxoma about 2-3 weeks ago. I asked you to read up Carney's complex. Apparently, nobody has read it. What is the use of taking class if you don't go back and read? Yeah, what else? Come on, anybody. What is Carney's complex? What are the clinical features? Autosomal dominant inheritance. It is often multiple. It can be in septum, it can be in other places in the heart. It can also be extracardiac. You can have myxomas forming in the skin, you can have myxomas forming in other organs of the body. Patient can give a history of, can have skin pigmentation. He can give a history of body ache, myalgia, fever, loss of appetite, loss of weight. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Systemic symptoms has to be answered.
And then she can also have either the symptoms or tumors in endocrine organs, pituitary, adrenals, and thyroid. Carney's complex can have endocrine tumors and endocrine symptoms. Now that is Carney's complex. The importance of diagnosing Carney's complex is you have to screen all the members in the family, 1. 2, you have to remove the whole atrial septum and make sure that you have removed the entire tumor tissue. Otherwise, it will recur again. You remember Amudan's case? Amudan's case, it recurred.
Yes, sir.
And that lady had a family history of LA myxoma.
LA myxoma. Yes, sir.
So, don't want a recurrence of tumor. You have to know whether it's syndromic variety. And you have to remove the entire tumor, the entire atrial septum. Just like you do in a malignancy, just like malignancy, you have to be very carefully remove the whole thing. In Carney's complex also, you have to carefully remove every single bit of tissue. Without knowing this, if you send a patient for surgery, you will have what happened to Amudan's case. This lady will come back in 1 year's time with
recurrence.
So, is that important before you send for surgery, Surya?
Yes, sir. You have to ask, sir.
That's a major mistake if you don't tell that.
Okay.
So, you assess her for syndromic variety of, but otherwise, once you rule out, or you may have to send blood tests for pituitary or thyroid functions and other things. Once you are reasonably sure that it is not a syndromic variety, I think you can try for a quick coronary angio, preferably surgery as early as possible. Once you rule out syndromic variety, quickly do a coronary angio and go ahead for surgery. Don't waste time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think I'll stop here. I think there's so much to discuss in a patient, every patient of even a simple aortic stenosis or any case. One second, let me magnify my. Yeah. So there's so much to read, so much to discuss in every case of simple myocardial infarction echo, or even a simple ASD echo, case of myxoma. Now, the questions in examination always starts on the echo, but it's not restricted to echo. You have to, that's the whole idea of OC, what is that, whatever that OCSC is. What is that? Observed, structured, something. What is the full form for OCSC, something? Anyway, in the examination, you're going to be given an echo, that point for your questioning, and then from there onward, you will be asked about the background, what is the diagnosis, what is the differential diagnosis, what else can you do, and so on and so forth. Do you get my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to stop here. So, questions on that. One more case was there. I think I'll discuss it another day. Now it's already time. So, any questions? No questions? Okay, in that case, I'm going to sign off now. Gautaman, I think it was good echo. All the 3 cases were good. The 4th case we'll discuss some other time. Very good.
Okay.
And I want everybody of you to present in this Friday session. The Friday session, I am not going to take any lectures. You guys have to come forward with some presentation. And unless you make it interesting, the session will be a not useful one. I think you guys have to contribute something, each one of you talk. Secondly, I am wasting quite a bit of time asking people to volunteer for presentation. Now, unless you people, only about 10, I deliberately not included the bigger group in this, so that I give all of you a chance to talk in Chennai. Now, if you guys don't want to talk, I may as well talk in the bigger group. I think this small group, because everybody should present, everybody should come forward to answer. If you don't come forward to answer, no, and we keep on wasting time, who is going to answer? Who is going to answer? I just keep waiting. No, lot of